Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease and related transmissible spongiform encephalopathies. Transmissible spongiform encephalopathies, or TSEs, are a group of degenerative brain disorders that got the label spongiform due to the sponge-like, holy appearance of affected brain tissue under a microscope. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is the most prevalent of the human varieties of TSEs, with 1 in 1 million people worldwide being affected. Other human TSEs include Kuru, fatal familial insomnia, and Gertzmann-Straussler-Scheinker disease. These three conditions are very rare. Other types of TSEs are typically found in specific kind of animals. The most well-known animal type is bovine spongiform encephalopathy, BSE, or mad cow disease. What is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, or CJD? CJD is a rapidly progressive, untreatable, infectious prion disease. It's one of a collection of the TSEs that affect humans. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease typically has an age of onset of 60 years of age, and the life expectancy after onset is 6 months to several years, although 90% of patients die within 1 year of onset. What causes CJD and other TSEs? People and animals naturally have prion proteins in the brain, which are harmless. When a person or animal gets a TSE, the prion proteins alter their shape without changing the amino acid sequence, the change in a sequence would cause the protein to become a different kind of protein altogether. Instead, the prion proteins remain prion proteins, but alter their shape, which causes a chain reaction, and nearby cells, prion proteins, also alter their shape. This chain reaction continues, resulting in an accumulation of misshapen prion proteins in the brain. Researchers currently believe that this accumulation causes neuron death and brain damage, but they haven't discovered exactly how that occurs. How does a person get, say, CJD? According to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, there are 3 specific etiologies. A minimum of 85% of cases are considered sporadic, meaning that the individual does not have any known risk factors, but that their prion proteins spontaneously change shape, becoming infectious and resulting in CJD. So basically, no one knows why 85% of people are getting this disease. About 5 to 10% of cases are considered hereditary, even though prion proteins do not contain any genetic material, nor do they require genes to reproduce. There is a gene responsible for the control of prion formation. If that gene is mutated, it may result in changes to the shape of the prion, which cause CJD. However, testing positive for a mutation of this specific gene does not guarantee an individual will develop CJD. The third etiology is acquired, which is less than 1% of cases, and basically this occurs if your brain or nervous system tissue is exposed to CJD, typically through a medical procedure in which a healthy person is exposed to brain tissue or spinal cord fluid from an infected individual. Mad cow disease in humans. There is a new variant of CJD called NV-CJD, which has appeared in Great Britain and France. It's a little different from CJD in that the people were younger than a typical CJD patient would be at the time of onset, and initial symptoms were primarily psychiatric difficulties, and the progression from onset to death was much slower. This new variant led to a concern that the humans had contracted the variant from eating contaminated beef, in that the beef had bovine spongiform encephalopathy, or BSE. Lab results did show strong similarities between the prions causing the new variant of CJD and BSE. However, no direct proof was found to support the theory that the mad cow disease had caused the human infection. Infectious prions of both BSE and the new variant of CJD do build up in a person's lymph nodes, and the lymph nodes are what produce white blood cells. So this suggests that it may be possible for the new variant of CJD to be transmitted through blood transfusions, whereas the original CJD has never been transmitted through blood donation that has been documented anyway. So now, because of the mad cow disease scare, we have different laws or regulations concerning blood donation. So symptoms of CJD: an extremely fast cognitive decline, including impaired memory, judgment, and thinking, difficulties with muscular coordination, personality changes, depression, insomnia, impaired vision. The progression of all symptoms of CJD occurs very rapidly and may eventually result in severe mental impairments, myoclonus, which is involuntary jerky movements, and inability to move or speak. Eventually, the individuals will enter a coma. Blindness also is a potential symptom. Speech and language symptoms of CJD include various dysarthrias, ataxia, and CJD may initially present focally as an aphasia or an apraxia of speech, depending upon the location of that accumulation of misshapen prions. In some cases, CJD has been associated with primary progressive aphasia, resulting in the insidious onset and progression of aphasia without any of the non-language impairments that we would expect with a typical CVA. All right, roles of the SLP with patients that have CJD. Patient and family education regarding the disease itself and the sad trajectory or outcome of CJD will be a big part of care, as these individuals typically don't have long to live. Also, discussions about how the family can best support communication with the individual with CJD will definitely be part of the SLP's role. Therapy may include visual supports to increase receptive language abilities, provision of structure or daily routines to support the cognitive functions, and SLP may provide therapy for aphasia, dysarthria, and apraxia of speech, but all of these would have to be scaffolded to meet the patient's current cognitive abilities. Diet modifications and techniques to improve the safety of swallowing would be part of the SLP's role. Provision of alternate methods of communication, especially encouraging multimodal communication, such as drawing and writing, as long as the muscle coordination of the individual is intact enough to allow for those things to happen. And then also provision of low-tech devices and possibly AAC in order to support communication. Basically, many of these patients are going to progress so fast that patient education and family education might be the biggest role, just because our typical therapies aren't going to be effective for very long. So that is all I had for you today on CJD.